Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of the X Factor Sports Podcast, Season 6, Episode 11. We are getting close to the season finale. Happy New Year to everybody across the world. Appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. We got a great show for you. We got college football playoffs, of course, going on today and throughout the rest of the week. We got NFL Week 18. We got to dive into that, who we think is going to win this weekend. Also, who we are predicting. We're going to have a playoff bracket later on in the show based on our Week 18 predictions, kind of where we think teams will line up. We're going to talk a little bit about some NBA for sure. So glad to have y'all in here for episode 11. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the layup lines, but we're going to talk about, because it's New Year's Day, we got to talk about a year in review with 2024. All right. So a lot of things happen in sports in 2024. You had Jim Harbaugh and Michigan winning the national championship, kicking off 2024 last year. The Chiefs went back-to-back. You had Don Staley in South Carolina win another national championship. You had UConn men's basketball go back-to-back. What else did we have going on in 2024? You had the C's, Boston Celtics. They won NBA Finals number 18, the title number 18, putting them ahead of the LA Lakers in that all-time NBA rivalry over the summer. Scottie Schefter, for my golf fans, took over 2024. We haven't seen a single golfer take over a year like this since probably Tiger Woods back in the day in his prime. We had Olympics this summer, USA men's and women's bringing home the gold. LeBron, KD, Steph, iconic moment. Three iconic players in this era of basketball stamping there and cementing their careers with a gold medal, which was great to see. The Dodgers winning the World Series with Mr. 700. You had the New York Liberty winning a WNBA championship for the first time in their illustrious careers of the franchise in the WNBA, one of the flagship original franchises. So it's great to see that for WNBA history. And then the great Rafa Nadal, for my tennis fans, calls it quits, retires. Mr. Clay himself retired from tennis. That's the year in review for sports in 2024. But we're going to keep it moving with the quick news and the layup lines. College football, y'all been watching the last couple days. Congrats to Penn State. Yesterday, they beat Boise State in that quarterfinal game to get to the semifinal. Last week, we actually picked Boise State to upset Penn State because they were the higher seed. Just showed a step up in class. Penn State was the better team, bigger, stronger. Boise State's not used to playing that caliber of a team. They kind of shut down Ashton Genty, but I was looking for some magic from Boise State. They played in the Fiesta Bowl years ago. That had been a cool storyline, but Penn State did what they should have done. They were favored to win and they got it done. And earlier today, did y'all see the Texas-Arizona State game? That game was crazy. Arizona State comes back, looked like they were about to get blown out of the building. I think the safety is what turned the game around. Cam Scatterboo showed up. He showed he could play with the big boys. After throwing up his lunch, he came back out on the field, went crazy, threw a touchdown, ran for a couple, and they forced double overtime. Texas missed 2 field goals, but I think the turning point in the game was getting the safety. They were down 17-3, got it to 17-5, and kind of started changing the momentum. So Arizona State showed a lot of fight. Congrats to them. Longhorns held on and won in double OT. That rule, man, in overtime, when you get the ball to start overtime and then it flips. So what Texas did is kind of a momentum swing, right? Arizona State has struggled kicking field goals. So Texas wins the coin toss. They give the ball to Arizona State. Arizona State can't go for 3 because they don't have a kicker. They're down to like their 3rd kicker. So they have to score a touchdown. They get the touchdown the first overtime and get the PAT, and then flip around. Texas scores the touchdown on 4th down. It was a great touchdown, Quinn Ewers, and then they get the PAT. But in the second overtime, it flips, right? So now Texas ended the first overtime with a TD, and then they get the ball to start the second OT, one play touchdown to the tight end, and then the 2-point conversion. Now the pressure is flipped to Arizona State, and they couldn't get it done. Threw a pick, Levitt threw a pick, and that was all she wrote. But it was still a great game. Best game I've seen in the college football playoff so far that actually meant something. And congrats to Texas moving on to the semifinal. Right now, as we speak, the Rose Bowl's going on. Oregon and Ohio State, the rematch. We picked Oregon to win that game. Like I said, I think it's going to come down to the wire, be a close game. And I'm picking Dylan Gabriel, the better quarterback. We'll see if I'm right. We'll see what happens with that. But then also some tragedy. So after the Rose Bowl, we were going to have the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. But as y'all probably know by now, there was a tragedy overnight on New Year's Eve in New Orleans. A white pickup truck driving through a crowd of people, killed several people, injured several. So hearts go out to those families that are there in New Orleans and all the fans. So they postponed the game for 24 hours. So that game will actually be tomorrow night, Notre Dame versus Georgia. I think college football did the right thing. They put the players, they put the fans, they put their hearts in front of that and made it a priority for their safety to move the game 24 hours. So there's a good job by the police, everybody involved in New Orleans and college football for making the right decision for moving that game. So hope everybody else is safe out there. So that's what we got in college football. In the NBA, still here in the layup lines, the quick news in the NBA, we got to touch on a couple things that have happened this week. Number one, the Sacramento Kings are dumb for firing Mike Brown, okay? But this is the type of things that bad organizations do. They have knee-jerk reactions. The Sacramento Kings are kind of on a skid. They lost a few games, a little bit under 500. Mike Brown is still the best coach they've probably had in a decade, and they've let him go. They're talking about De'Aaron Fox is in trade rumors. They want to blow this team up. Mike Brown is the best coach they've had. He is ingratiated himself with the city of Sacramento, very small town that love their franchise. It's their only professional sports team. And the players love playing for him. And because they were on this skid, the management front office just making a scared reaction, and they fired the best coach they probably had in a long time. There's rumors out there that say Mike Brown wanted to shake up the starting rotation because it wasn't playing well by putting DeMar DeRozan, having him come off the bench. I think the front office didn't like that because they spent money, and obviously DeMar DeRozan is a high-paid player, business of basketball type stuff. But this is what happens. Players are now, they have more power than the coaches when it comes to running the basketball team. The coach knows his team. You got to let these coaches lead their teams the right way. He's got the feel. He's checking the temperature in the locker room. If he wants to shake things up, he should be able to. Like I said, it's rumored that Mike Brown wanted to bench DeMar DeRozan to shake things up because they had a losing streak. Front office wasn't feeling it. And so they move on from him, and Doug Christie's the interim coach. I think it was a bad move. If you pay attention to social media or you pay attention to the NBA, everybody around thinks it was a bad move because Mike Brown is a good coach. So we'll see where Sacramento goes from there. But in some good news in the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder. If y'all haven't been paying attention because there's a lot of football going on this time of year, the OKC Thunder are the best team in basketball. Yes, they have one more loss than the Cleveland Cavaliers, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP. At this point of the season, he's playing the best basketball of anybody in the league. He just dropped 40 on the Timberwolves the other day. And for the last couple years, Shai has been playing like one of the best players in basketball. I think this is the year he wins an MVP. The OKC Thunder have the best defense in basketball. They got the best point differential in basketball. They only have one more loss than Cleveland. They're on a 12-game winning streak, and they're the best team in the West by far. I think If they keep on this trajectory, I can see them winning the West and going to the finals. And just like last year, I'm consistent with how I look at MVPs. I had Jason Tatum last year because he was the best player on the best team. Shai Gilgeous is the same, although Shai Gilgeous may be playing even better than Tatum was last year on the best team in basketball. So that young OKC team, they look great. And I got him as the MVP right now, and the OKC Thunder is the best team. So that's what we got for the quick news in this episode 11. Now we're going to get into why we're all here for the MVPs of the NFL. And we're going to get into that. We're going to dive right in. All right. The NFL MVP award. Over the years, it's changed, right, to a quarterback award. Everybody assumes the best quarterback of the season wins this award. But the question I ask is this MVP award a narrative-based award or is it a merit-based award, right? Meaning, if the story fits or if it's a great story for a player to win the MVP, is that who the voters give it to? The beat writers, because it's all just media that's voting for these, right? So they always want the best story. Or if it's merit-based. I don't think any of these awards are merit-based because growing up, Jordan probably would have won 7 or 8 MVPs in a row. LeBron probably would have won 3 or 4 MVPs in a row. Kobe would have won more than 1 MVP. Shaq would have won more than 1 MVP. So you know what I'm saying? It's not a merit-based award. It's more of a narrative-based award. So in the NFL, you have these quarterbacks. You have, I won't even say quarterbacks. All of the MVP candidates, I believe, are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry. All of them have a case of why they should win the MVP. Even Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is on pace to get the triple crown for wide receiving, touchdowns, yards, receptions. Him and Joe Burrow will probably be eliminated because they've lost too many games, which is fine. All right. It's hard to say you're the most valuable player in a league on a team that's fighting to get in the playoffs. Cool. Derrick Henry probably won't get it because he plays with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson won't get it because he plays with Derrick Henry. It's kind of the Steph Curry, Kevin Durant argument, right? You got 2 top players on the team. They kind of cancel each other out for MVP votes. Even though Lamar is having a better season than he had last year, statistically, again, if this was a merit-based award, you have to talk about Joe Burrow, the numbers he's putting up, and the numbers Lamar's putting up. And then Jared Goff, his team is playing winning football. He's on one of the best teams in the league. Same with Sam Darnold. You got to show love to him, but it's Sam Darnold, so nobody will look at it. Saquon, who's got over 2,000 yards, he's actually going to sit this week, so he won't get the Eric Dickerson record, but he's the 9th running back in NFL history to get 2,000 yards. So he'll probably get Offensive Rookie of the Year or Offensive Player of the Year. So who does that leave? Josh Allen. So I think Josh Allen, I've been saying this for weeks, that Josh Allen will win the MVP. But it won't because it's merit-based. It'll be because of the narrative. Okay? If you go back to September, beat writers, you go to all the ESPN.coms and all these other sports networks, websites, everything at the beginning of the season was the Jets are going to win the AFC East. Josh Allen lost his 2 best receivers. If somehow Josh Allen were to get them to the playoffs, he could win an MVP. But the Buffalo Bills weren't even projected to win the division, let alone win the division with 4 weeks to go, right? Dominate their division for the 5th straight year, by the way. So he beat the odds there. Then it was always a knock on him because he turned the ball over so much. And, you know, if he can play well in big games and actually carry this team. So he lost his 2 best receivers. They wondered if they would win the AFC. They wondered if he would get in the playoffs. Check, check, check. He's checked all the boxes. And they are locked into the number 2 seed in the AFC. And in the regular season, mind you, this is a regular season award, They beat the two best teams in football, in the AFC with the Chiefs and in the NFC at the time, the Detroit Lions. So the narrative is just stacked up for Josh Allen to win this award. So that's why I've said this since they locked up the division in these impressive games that he's had, that Josh Allen's going to win the MVP. I don't know if he's going to play this weekend against the Patriots. I don't know if he even needs to play. I think he has the award locked up because of the narrative of all of the doubters and naysayers for the Bills and everything that he's done to bring them to where they are in the standings, where they are in the playoff race, and winning their division. So I think Josh Allen gets it for that record. A lot of people had the Bills projected to be 10-7, maybe 11-6 in the regular season. Nobody had them being the 2 seed at 14-3, 13-4, whatever their record is now. So these are all bold predictions for Josh Allen to win MVP, right? So because this is a narrative-based award and Josh Allen has created the narrative of how he's playing football. Now, don't get me wrong. He has numbers. There are quarterbacks that have better numbers than him. But to take what he had last season and what went away and to elevate his game, that's the story of why he'll win the MVP. There's a little bit of voter fatigue for Lamar. He's already got 2. Mahomes, his team is doing well, but he hasn't had his best year statistically, threw a lot of interceptions, a lot of quarterback hits. So that kind of eliminates him from the narrative. Joe Burrow, again, not winning enough. Saquon on a great team, but they'll probably give the running back the Offensive Player of the Year award because he made history. Sam Darnold doesn't have the numbers. He came out of nowhere, kind of shocking. Jared Goff, same thing. So the push has been for Josh Allen because he's one of those top tier quarterbacks. And so I think because of the year he's having and the success the Buffalo Bills are having in spite of losing weapons, Josh Allen wins the MVP award. Narrative-based as opposed to merit-based. So y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Again, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the X Factor Sports Podcast. We are on YouTube and Rumble every Wednesday night. And you can check us out on all of the places where you can listen to podcasts, the X Factor Sports Podcast. Okay, let's shift gears. So we're going to stay in the NFL, and we're going to talk about Week 18 coming up this weekend with some pivotal games and some games that will determine some playoff seedings and some eliminations. All right, so we're going to start with Saturday. Saturday's game, basically Saturday's a doubleheader. It's the AFC North doubleheader. The Bengals and the Steelers. I got the Bengals winning this game. I think they are playing a lot better than the Steelers are. The Steelers lost 3 straight. They're about to limp their way into the playoffs. They don't have any momentum. The Bengals are playing for something. They're trying to get in, control their own destiny. Like I told you, Jamar Chase is looking for a triple crown. Joe Burrow, in my opinion, is the best pocket quarterback in the NFL. And if you don't believe me, just watch the games. All right. There is no throw he can't make. There is no player he can't get open. And if you watch that masterpiece that he had last week where T. Higgins had a career high in 3 touchdowns, even with Jamar Chase, quote unquote, being bottled up by Patrick Surtain, he still somehow, some way had 100 yards receiving. Joe Burrow just a master in the pocket. I think that continues. They carve up the Steelers and they win this game. The offense just looks unstoppable. And then the Ravens game, like I said, I think the Ravens dispatched the Browns. They need it. They want to win the AFC North. I think they take care of business easily, handle them, and move on to clinch that AFC North and get that 3 spot. But the pivotal games we'll dive into. So Sunday, the Falcons beat the Panthers, but it won't matter because Tampa Bay handles business against the Saints. So we got 2 games that matter for the NFC South. The Bucs stay in the lead over the Falcons, even though the Falcons win. Bucs take care of business. Mike Evans gets his 11th straight 1,000-yard season, tying Jerry Rice, first all time, and get his bonus money. You know I'm always about the players getting that bread, so congrats to that. That'll happen this weekend. But the Tampa Bay Bucks will win the South, and they will clinch up that 4th spot. And the Falcons will win, but for naught, and they won't make the playoffs. Then we got Sunday, Washington and Green Bay. They're both playing for playoff seeding, 6 and 7, the last 2 spots. The NFC, I think, is pretty much figured out. Like I said, I think the Bucks got it. But these 2 spots are for playoff position in 6 and 7. I think Washington and Green Bay win, so the seeding doesn't change. The Packers beat the Bears. Washington wins. The Packers stay in the 7th spot. Now, these games are going to be super important. The Broncos play against the Chiefs. Andy Reid's already said that Carson Wentz is going to start. I think other guys, other reserves will play in this game. And I'll tell you what, the Broncos played the Chiefs tough when everybody was in the game. They got a blocked field goal at the end and lost. This game is in Mile High. I feel like the Broncos, they're going to come out. They're desperate. They need this game, just like the Bengals need their game Saturday. And I think the Broncos win it. I think the Broncos win this game, and because they win, that'll eliminate the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have no control because they play first. So I think Bengals play hard and win their game Saturday, but the Broncos see that the Bengals win, and they go out and beat the Chiefs in Week 18, which ultimately eliminates the Bengals, and it eliminates the Dolphins no matter what the Dolphins do. So the Broncos with the rookie Bo Nix turn their franchise around in over 2 years after the Russell Wilson stuff and end up making the playoffs, the Denver Broncos. And I think that's what happens. Then we got the game of the year in the regular season. For all the marbles, Sunday night, the Minnesota Vikings, Detroit Lions. This game has a lot of implications. So we have the winner of this game wins the NFC North, which is the best division in football probably ever. You got an 11-win Green Bay team, and you got 2 teams with 14 wins already, right? So the NFC North, the number 1 seed and a bye, comes down to Sunday night. I'm picking the Minnesota Vikings to win this game for a few reasons. The Lions, this war of attrition, they have 19 players on IR this year. Majority of them are on the defense. They just played Monday night, so they're coming back on a short week. They got to play against a really, really tough 14-2 opponent, Minnesota Viking rival team. And I feel like the Vikings are just more prepared. They're going to be ready. They're not as fatigued. They're not as tired. They are not literally losing bodies every week like the Lions are. And it's a shame because the Lions was the best team in football all year, and they just start losing their players to injury. It's part of the game. Unfortunately, you got to stay healthy. There's a lot of health and luck and playing hard and playing better than everybody that's involved when it comes to winning championships. But I got the Minnesota Vikings winning this game and coming from behind all season long and getting that number 1 seed in the NFC, dropping the Lions to 5th, which is crazy. The Lions will be a 14-3 team, and they got to go on the road to play at a wild card game. It's insane. That just tells you how crazy the NFC has been this season. And so with that, we actually have a bracket for you guys that we put together. And based on what we just talked about, how we think the weekend's going to go Week 18, here's a view of the X Factor Sports Podcast NFL bracket, all right? So this is how we think it's going to shake up. The Chiefs and the Vikings get the number 1 seed, okay? So they get the first round bye. Much needed for the Chiefs. They actually steal 2 weeks with Mahomes and probably Kelsey and Chris Jones. A lot of these guys, Pacheco probably won't play in Week 18, and then they get the bye. So now we got fresh legs going into the divisional round. I think the Vikings win Sunday night and earn the right to get a week off and host a playoff game. AFC will start on that side. The Steelers will have to go to Baltimore, play the Ravens for a third time. Again, they limp into the playoffs because I feel like the Bengals will beat them in week 18. So they'll come into the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak, and the Ravens will match up with them again, familiar foes. The Broncos, again, they beat the Chiefs, but then their reward is you get to go to Orchard Park in January and play against the MVP, Josh Allen. So I think that's what happens in the 7-2 matchup. Jim Harbaugh doing what Jim Harbaugh does, gets the Chargers in the playoffs, which is what we want to see. We want to see our premier quarterbacks. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow won't be one of them, make the playoffs. So I'm excited to see Justin Herbert in prime time against the Houston Texans. In the NFC, like I said, Washington and Green Bay won't swap because I think both of those teams win their last games and they stay at 6-7. This is an interesting matchup. Green Bay goes on the road to Philly. Now, if you remember, last season, Philly limped into the playoffs, kind of like what I think the Steelers are going to do. And they went to Tampa Bay and got beat up. They looked like they quit. In the huddle, they was probably saying 1, 2, 3 Cancun. They was ready for a vacation. And so they have a lot to prove. However, Jalen Hurts got a concussion a couple weeks ago. We don't know if he's going to be 100%. I think that Philly is looking ahead and they understand the magnitude of redemption of getting this wild card game. So I think that's why Saquon and a lot of these guys are going to rest in week 18 so they can be prepared for this playoff game because they want to win it. But it's an interesting matchup. Green Bay is a good team. And Jordan Love has been playing well on the road, and he's been playing well come December the last 2 years. So that'll be an interesting 7-2 matchup. The Rams host Washington is what we think will match up here. And you get Jaden Daniels, a rookie, going against who I think is the best quarterback in the NFC, in Matthew Stafford. They're peaking at the right time. That young defense is peaking at the right time. You got both your offensive number 1 wide receivers, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, healthy, ready to go. It's a playoff game in LA. I'm excited to see that game as well. I think that'll be the 4-5 matchup. And then the Lions, like I said, unfortunately, with losing all of these people, I feel like the ramifications of week 18, what we think will happen, will have the Lions at the 5 seed, and they will be going to Tampa Bay, which I'm sorry to say is tough. That's a tough place to go in the playoffs with Tampa Bay getting healthy, peaking at the right time, and their offensive weapons. Baker Mayfield is having the best season of his career. He might mess around and get some Progressive commercials again, the way he's been playing. So it's going to be interesting, man. I think this is going to be a fun playoffs this year, and a lot of implications from week 18 will determine if this bracket that we've predicted comes to fruition. So looking forward to it. I'm super excited about what's to come with the NFL, with these brackets. You guys let me know what you think. If you think that these games are going to come out the way they are, and if these brackets will look the way that we have it predicted in the first round, can't wait to hear what you guys think. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on the X Factor Sports Podcast. All right. Now, before we get out of here with this quick episode, we get into that 2-minute warning. Again, I want to say Happy New Year to everybody all across the world. But this is how we're going to start the year. Last year, we talked about New Year's revolution as opposed to New Year's resolution. But I want to kick this off this way. Letting go of the need for approval. Okay? Approval from other people and kind of what that will do for you as a person, what that does for you internally. So letting go of the need for approval from others is beneficial for a lot of reasons. It just allows you to be your authentic self, making decisions based on what you believe, based on how you feel. And when things go the way they're supposed to, or they go the right way, it makes you feel like you've accomplished something. It makes you want to continue to move forward. So I'm not saying that you don't have to listen to advice or you don't need help. What I'm saying is, if your decisions and the way you navigate your life is based on what other people think of you, then you're going in the wrong direction. So it's best to Internalize and figure out what it is that you want out of your life and what you think is the right thing, and you move forward with that. And it just kind of releases you from the shackles of other people's opinions of you, other people's thoughts, looking over your shoulder, being self-conscious, helps build your self-esteem, and you can kind of strive for goals without fear of judgment from other people. So ultimately, it just leads to that more fulfilling life when you don't have to worry about everybody else's criticisms of you. So try to work on that for 2025 and moving forward is letting go of the need of other people's approval. All right. Appreciate y'all for tuning in to the X Factor Sports Podcast, Season 6, Episode 11. Next week, the season finale of Season 6. We will be live at Bogey's Windy City Pub. If you like the gear, be sure to go to the X Factor Sports store, or you can click on the QR code below. Get all your gear. As you see, you saw a couple hoodies the last 2 weeks. We got sweatshirts. We will be taking these on the road in the finale to Bogey's Windy City Pub. It'll be in front of a live audience. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have hats, shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies. We're going to be giving out prizes. We're going to be having a great time. So make sure you get there and get you a seat. The X Factor Sports Podcast Season 6 finale is 1 week away. Looking forward to seeing y'all. This is Jay Mondane signing out. Happy New Year. Peace and blessings to everybody in New Orleans. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.